Look.
How much pasta
my
have you
delicate
been...
dragon skin needs to be removed and washed on a regular basis, so I have to put on my human form. Just so everyone at home knows.
How much pasta have you been giving that dragon? Like, anyway, we better start recording.
You have started recording. We're live now.
I know we're live, but I haven't pressed the record button yet.
You missed all that gold about my dragon suit. Come on.
I did. We start when the music starts. This is just crazy bonus content. Here we go.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim. With me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And Dr. Squee.
Dragon! The
And
catchphrase which is sweeping the nation.
For the audio listeners, Dr. Squee is no longer dressed as a dragon this week.
Sorry, say it correctly. I removed my dragon skin, which was quite painful, and put it in the wash. It is now on the radiator, so I've had to put on this dumb human outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's it's an acceptable lifestyle choice, and we support you with it. But I'm just filling in the audio listeners. It's all good.
Just in case they mistaken that's an outfit or something.
I mean, that would just be ridiculous. It's not like you can get something like that for £25 off Amazon.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So this week, anyway, we're looking at the latest episode of Prodigy, which is called Preludes. And we're finally back to the Dominion War, and we're talking about Return to Grace,
which isn't really part of the Dominion War, but we thought it was important enough.
That's it. We'll talk about it a bit more when we get to DS9, but we are going to have to drop in non-full-on Dominion War episodes now and again because of how all the subplots dovetail, particularly at the end. So,
I mean, this is quite an important road to the Dominion War. I mean, it's a passable kind of like entree to the Dominion War.
Yeah, you need your character backgrounds and everything before we get there. But that's for the second half of the show. However, we do need to start with the Trek news, which was sad Trek news this week, which was, I'm sure most people have already read, but the passing of Kirstie Alley, who obviously came to, I mean, she's on the credits of Star Trek 2 as introducing Kirstie Alley. So that was where her career started, really. And then obviously went on to become, I think it's fair to say she was an icon of 80s and 90s cinema TV with Cheers and with Look Who's Talking and everything. So, yeah, very, very sad news to start the week there.
If I can just talk a bit about the Cheers of it all. I mean, what an uphill battle anyone was going to face to replace Diane. Sam and Diane was one of those iconic duos on screen. The love interest, like will they, won't they? It was one of the earlier ones. And so to step into that and to do a good job and to tread a different kind of path in it was really quite an obstacle. But she nailed it. She was just so good. The fact that she could be like a powerful boss 1 minute and then you could just see her falling apart and give this wonderful comedic turn the next.
She did a great part when she first got the part, when she went to the first audition. She dressed as Diane just to make all the rest of the cast laugh. And she won them over immediately with that.
That's pretty cool. That's risky though, isn't it?
Yeah. But it just made, she just pretended to be Diane in the first audition, and she had them all in fits of laughter, which eased her into the role. Like the actors accepted her.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I'd highly recommend, if anyone has got Paramount Plus for the Star Trek of it all, you've got every episode of Cheers on there. Just dive in, go for some like great Diane episodes. I could highly recommend. There's a great one where Beer's a chief. He becomes a beer tester for the week, and the B plot is Kirstie Alley as Rebecca trying to win at this slot machine thing, and it's just classic. Becky, like she tries to act all strong and powerful, but she's like just doesn't know what she's doing. She's falling apart. She keeps on. Everyone else wins at this slot machine. She just keeps on losing. It's just this really fun episode.
So I'm not up to that yet. I've just got. She's just broke up with the English fella. Is where I'm at with it. So
not sad. I really watch
look, yeah, I mean, her first episode, Home as the Sailor, which is Sam returning home after leaving.
Yeah,
he leaves the bar after Diane leaves off camera, basically, and he's coming back, and she's now the manager. It's just a wonderful episode, and I know a lot of people, including myself, have some problems with her. Her religious kind of Scientology stuff, but you cannot fault her acting, and I think that's still worth celebrating. And
absolutely. You know what? Star Trek 2, another watch, because she was definitely the better Savick. I know some people are like, oh, Robin Curtis brought this, that, and the other to it. Nah,
it was scandalous because, like, for a new actress, it's standard Hollywood procedure that you sign them up for sequels immediately. And they've never signed her up for after Star Trek 2. That's why they had to recast. She'd become too big with Cheers.
That's it, yeah.
And imagine an early actor. Imagine an early actor as well having to learn all the Vulcan and stuff. Like, there's a lot of tricky stuff in that. In like that film is magic from start to finish. No one gives a bad performance in Star Trek 2, and to be part of that, just as one of your first films, amazing.
Yeah. So, moving on from the maudlin topic, Preludes, the episode of Prodigy then. Now, this one, I just wanted to run this past you guys. I don't know what you thought. I felt this was the kind of episode that really lends itself to animation, like the structure of it. Basically, what we've got this episode is everyone going, you know what, I'm going to tell you my backstory for a few minutes. And we just get these sequences with everybody's backstory. And I kind of feel like if you tried to do that in live action, it might come across as a little bit clumsy. It might not work. But I don't know, there's just something about the animated style. And like, there's a precedent for this. Like, I remember the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends show, and there's an episode of that where Iceman and Firestar just go, hey Spidey, why don't you tell us how you became Spider-Man? And literally that's the setup, and then you get the classic Spider-Man backstory, and then there's another episode where he goes, oh, so how did you become Iceman, and how did you become Firestar? And this to me really sort of channeled that kind of energy. But I really thought it worked. I wonder if it'd have worked in live action, or whether we'd have had to do something a little bit more elaborate to frame it.
I was thinking if this had been a live action episode, doing this sort of story where it's just giving you a little bit of backstory about everyone and nothing really, the plot's not really progressing or anything, we'd all think, oh, this is a filler episode. Like DS9 used to go, some of them, oh, this is a bit of filler episode, and in 2 or 3 episodes, we're going to get a huge budget spent on big battles. And it felt like if it was live action, it'd be that sort of episode of filler.
Actually, I'd argue.
So there's no difference in the budget per episode.
I would also argue, actually, it might be the reverse, because I was thinking the reason why you couldn't have done this, where this is sort of a spiritual sequel to Voyager, if you're doing this live action, you'd have to have new sets, new locations for all these different stories, new battles. It would cost more, I would have thought. But the thing which really reminded me of, there was this book called Mosaic for Voyager, and it told all the origin stories of them. I think it was set around basics. They were on the planet, and they went around this campfire, and they started telling stories of how they all joined Starfleet. And it just felt like that in a live action thing. And I always assumed in audio that was able to be done, whereas maybe it got pitched for TV and it just wouldn't have been able to, because you'd have to have different sets for everyone and stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'd not thought of that, but yeah, you're absolutely right. They would have had to build all kinds of things, wouldn't they, if they wanted to do this episode?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's grand.
The only sort of live action equivalent I can think, and it's not from Star Trek, was there's an episode of Firefly where it's sort of set in about 3 different time periods, and it's got like Mal crawling through the ship and he's being shot. And then it flashes back to show you how they ended up there. And then it flashes back within that to show how everybody joined the crew. And it's similar in that we get all these backstories. But even that, they had to do this really quite complex and ambitious temporal structuring of the episode. And, you know, whereas with this episode of Prodigy, you can get away with just going, hey, let's get everybody's backstory and let's crack on with it. And I think that's a great thing, whether it's because of the medium or because it's pitched at a slightly younger audience and the storytelling can be a bit simpler, or whether it's because we've got the 23-minute format, so you don't need to put in all of this extra complexity to do it. Whatever the reason is, I think this episode works. Because
we get four different backstories here. In fact, 5 almost.
Well, this is the thing. I would have thought that, you know, this seemed like it was a standalone episode. You know, when they get in the middle of the Dominion War, for instance, they might have a standalone episode. It's just something to kind of like have a bit of a sidetrack with. Yet they forwarded the plot with this as well. So it does so many things in this episode. I'm really digging the hell out of Prodigy. I think we've got so much consistent Star Trek. Like you think of, we're talking about Strange New Worlds being one of the most consistent series. I said the same about Picard in this last series. And Prodigy. And Discovery is also a program which is happening.
Yeah. Well, Discovery was consistent, just in a different trajectory to the other ones.
And Lower Decks as well was wonderful.
Lower Decks is just brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, these are all brilliant shows, and they're all, I don't know, again, they're it's hard to pick out the bad episode in a lot of these shows.
The Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Picard, I can agree with you.
Yes, I agree with you too.
Look, Discovery's going to make a comeback. Season 5, I've had it on good authority, is going to be really good.
Because we're not haters. I just did not like
it. No, we want to like it all.
I thought the series before was really good.
Discovery is taking a bit of a lesson from the other 4 shows of how they're doing things.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
But back to Prodigy then. So yeah, basically, we've got this set up. They've got a bit of downtime. Let's have the stories. And we start off with Rock's backstory.
It isn't really downtime. They're trying to fix the ship out of the boat. They need a bit of a break because they're all getting stressed and tired out.
Yeah, and Medusan, he's lost an arm.
Zero. So starting with Rock then. See, now, I have been accused of going back to talking about wrestling and for any excuse, but this does evoke professional wrestling very, very much because you've got this staged fight basically that's going on, and it's Rock versus this hero who's got pretty much a lightsaber. So we're still doing a lot of Star Wars references, and again, because I do love wrestling, this really appealed to me because you've got effectively Rock's playing the bad guy or the heel, and you've got the other person who's the good guy, the face. But they switch it and they mix it up because Rock wants to do something a little bit different and effectively plays the face role, and the other guy takes on the sort of comedy bad guy role. And unfortunately for Rock, it's not as popular, and it leads to the splitting of the act.
Yeah, I just love the fact that
sold.
Yeah, that's the thing. The guy, I like the way they paint it. They haven't made the other guy the bad guy. It's just like he knows what will happen and what does eventually happen if Rock plays the hero. He knows he can, like, you can see it in his eyes. Like, the animation is so good to show his sadness at what's going to happen to her. And it does, and it just, it breaks my heart. Like, just it was so well done. It just, like, considering you got like 5 minutes to tell each of these stories, the amount of ground and the amount they get you invested.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good.
It's like it's very strange, isn't it? Like, I know that we only allowed to call it season 1, but essentially
Well, why would you call anything else?
This is the back end of season 2.
What?
And we're only just finding out about these characters, why they're like they are.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, to your point that, we're only getting these 5-minute segments. But each of them, as well as telling a little backstory, is tying into what we know of the characters now. And for Rock, we get this thing of, that's why you don't like fighting. That's why you're so averse to violence.
Yeah.
And I think that's great how they don't just go, this is the backstory, done. This is the backstory, and this is how it informs who this character is that you've come to know.
Yeah, and it's like I just love that it's the happiness that these children, let's not forget these are all children. These children have found in kind of basically being sold in slavery, and they find some measure of happiness somewhere within this.
Yeah.
Or for the most part, I know Jenkum, we'll get on to him, but like his story is slightly different. But it's like there was something so powerful. I don't know why. I just never really. I always thought of them being the misfits, but they are child laborers. They're children put into slavery. This is some real big shit. And it really brought it home in this episode. And again, like how someone can find some joy in such miserable circumstances just blows me away. And it seems so realistic somehow. Like, okay, not in the middle of space, but I'm sure there's people, like there's children who have gone through this and found some measure of happiness somehow. It's mind-blowing. It's very human, this episode, somehow.
No, absolutely it is. I do have a tiny nitpick, and this is one of my ongoing nitpicks with this season / last season. We're getting some answers as to how everyone ended up in the Delta Quadrant now, so I'm okay with that. But how are the Kazon getting to the Alpha Quadrant as frequently as they are?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, they have shown so many reasons why everyone else can jump between, and we kind of figure them out, and then they've explained it and justified it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if. I mean, they've been quite good at. They don't let a lot slip in this show, so I think they're gonna.
I think we'll get an answer, but then I've just thought of now that, as we know, the Kazon do have sneakily fast technology because they were always ahead of Voyager for the first 2 seasons somehow.
Yeah. Also, if they fell in with the Diviner because he's from the future, maybe he used some maybe if they're working for him,
their ships so they can go out and get him slaves.
Yeah, so the main Kazon can't do it, but maybe just the ones who work for him. That will work.
But then we have just seen random Kazon, like at the Starbase last episode.
How do we know they're not working for him? Because they could be stationed there.
Yeah, okay, yeah, could be.
Or working for the other, the younger one of his species.
The Judicator or whatever.
Come out in the Alpha Quadrant and just embedded in the Federation, aren't she?
Yeah, and well done, Elliot, for calling it last week. We were all going with the whole theory, it might be something to do with Gwyn, and you were just like, nah, it's just another one of them.
Yep.
And you were on the money. We read way too much into the similarity between them.
You were looking for more plot than there was.
We were.
All 3 of us have had our share of kind of wins of like guessing. Elliot, though, got to hand you are the kind of like you're ahead in the polls by quite a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then we get Zero's story, and again, it's just a nice, not nice because it ends up with being kidnapped, but yeah. So Zero was out exploring the galaxy, and they were just running free as blobs of light, and it's all lovely. But then the bloody Kazon turn up, and they've got the visors from the original series.
Yes, and also it's very original series to have a being which is just of energy.
Yeah,
they use
there are a lot of them in the original series. Almost like it was a cheaper thing to do. Just to have.
Like when you see the Medusans, it makes you wonder if the companion from the
from Metamorphosis
was a Medusan.
I want to call it how you're mispronouncing it. Medusan sounds much more grand. It's kind of lovely. They're the Medusans.
Yeah, you like to we can put a bit of artistic flourish into some of the names if we want.
A bit of flourish on it, because the one thing which I thought was really good about his story as well is because it justifies why he isn't like if his species just lived on the planet he came from. There is no reason why he wouldn't spend every moment trying to get back to him. He's talking about how this is the happiest time of his life and everything. But because they're nomadic, it means there's no set point for him to try and get back to, which justifies why he sticks with the Prodigy crew. Because as much as he loves them, I can't picture anyone, if that was the happiest time of your life, falling in with them as opposed to going, oh, thanks for letting me escape, but I've got to go after my people.
Yeah, that's always the thing, isn't it?
Like, I imagine that there is a Medusan home world. There has to be.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that was very clever writing. They seem to have an answer for every problem we have, which I think is really smart.
Well, I want an answer about the Kazone before the end of the season, please.
maybe it was, and in fact, actually, Janeway opened up the Borg transwarp conduits and stuff. Like, maybe for some reason she helped them. There's a lot of kind of.
Oh, I'd like a twist there. It turns out that Neelix is like when he left Voyager, he nicked loads of the technology and he's been selling it. And Neelix has become like
nicking technology from Voyager to sell. That never happened ever.
And Neelix has been.
You think he'd do it now?
And he's become like this big Delta Quadrant Godfather type figure. Like Neelix has gone full on bad guy and he's running a criminal empire. I mean, he was child trafficking when we first met him, so you know.
I mean, I've got to say, I like no insult to the actor Ethan Phillips. He's great, but like
he is.
I mean, it might make Neelix fucking more interesting if he was. I mean, he was badly written for so many times. I think he could have been an interesting character.
There's some really good Neelix episodes, and when Neelix was done right, it was brilliant. But there's also some real cringe with Neelix.
Oh god, I mean, like in 7 years he couldn't work out that Vulcan was a species. I mean, fucking how dumb do you want to make him? Sorry, it pissed me off that.
They wanted to make him very dumb. Very dumb at times, but then very intelligent. Anyway, yes, it was very inconsistent writing. Then we jump over to the bad guys. So we've had two of our...
you missed one. Jank and Pog.
Have I?
Jank and Pog?
That's after?
Is it?
Oh, yeah, we get the Diviner first. Then we go back to Jankum.
Okay.
Did we?
We did.
All right. Okay. Like, you've got the notes. I don't write notes, so you win quite.
I write notes. I write these notes in chronological order. Just a peek behind the curtain there.
Oh, I believe.
Because if I don't, we get very confused.
Yeah. I like. Yeah. I'm not the notes guy.
No, because I agree. I thought it was an interesting structural choice in the episode to have two of the crew's stories and then jump to the bad guy, then go back for one more crew story.
Yeah, maybe that's why my mind changed it.
And it's funny. Is the Diviner really a bad guy?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, there is no justification
for it, but I don't think he's set out as a bad guy.
Basically, the Federation just came to the planet and gave them a choice of joining or not, and then they started a civil war. That's not the Federation. I'm sorry. It's like me saying hi to you, and it's like, oh, well, I want to say hi to you, but my wife didn't want to, so we got divorced. It's all your fault. You're putting a lot on me saying hello.
Yeah, they started the civil war over should they or shouldn't they join the Federation, and he was all for joining the Federation and thought it sounded like a really noble thing.
Yeah, but he doesn't get because we then warred over it. It's your fault for existing.
But even if we take out what initially sparked his motivations, he did run a colony of child laborers.
Yeah, that's pretty bad too.
So
bring up one bad thing he does.
Yeah, he starts up one child labor.
One mistake.
That's true. You're right. Well, okay, we'll reserve judgment on the Diviner until he commits his next atrocity.
I really think it's just. I mean, it's great writing, and that I believe that. A species would do this, but it's just I'm sorry, but it's not on the Federation that you went to war because you couldn't decide whether or not you wanted to join. That's not on them.
Yeah, and the way they tell the story is great, and it does give so much backstory to it. And it's like, and then the Protostar turned up, and we realised it was our chance. And it's like, well, you could have used it to. Like, go and find resources to make your planet better. No, we're going to use it to destroy the Federation.
Or go back to the past. Go back to the past. Visit the Federation. Go. By the way, never visit our planet. I'm really sorry. I know you've got the best of intentions, but this is what happens as a result. Never visit.
Yeah,
us.
could have done that. No. What we're going to do is we're going to get our evil death weapon and we're going to integrate it into the ship, and we're going to send it back. And then I'm not entirely convinced the maths here works, because they go, we worked out it was about a 1% chance we'd find it. So we sent 100 people. So therefore it's 100% chance.
No. They did say, actually, I listened to the wording on this the second time watching today. I believe it was a 1 in 100 chance. So we sent 100
I don't want that showing. I wanted to delete it.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I brought that on screen.
So anyone wants a chat bot? That's your one.
Anyone wants a chat bot? That's the one. How do we get rid of it? There we go. Thank you, Elliot. Anyway, forgive the interruption. So yes, sorry, you were saying, Squee.
No, just that so it could have gone back in time and stopped the Federation from visiting, I think was what I was saying. So basically, all we had to go is like, just don't come by us. We're like, it'll end really badly for us. And the only thing that I think the Federation would have done after this was they would have had a Federation meeting about the Prime Directive and maybe like, well, is there any way we could change the Prime Directive to make sure this doesn't happen? And I think they probably would have ended with no, not really. If people are going to war over joining us or not, that's not on us. We went until they're warp capable. We made sure that they're responsible. Oh yeah, and there's 1 in 100. That was the other thing. They did say that it was a 1 in 100 chance, so they said 100.
I just want to slag Chakotay off a little bit more, actually.
Oh, let's do that.
Can we just finish? Sorry, just
we'll finish the maths first.
Yeah, the maths first, just because
the only thing
I was going to add to that was that they did say that they still thought, even though it's a 1 in 100 chance, even sending 100 chips, they knew the chance were against them. So they weren't stupid enough to say it's like, and that's a certainty then.
Yeah, I'm going to say, because it doesn't mean each ship has a 1 in 100 chance. That doesn't add up to 100 out of 100, does it?
Yeah, so, and also 100 chances
ships back.
And it might be an average of 100 over 1,000, for instance. So it doesn't mean that in every 100 you're going to get one. You might get. So
any mathematicians tell us what the chances were. We want to know.
I think it's 100. It just we don't know the sample set.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, Elliot.
It's like Deal or No Deal.
Right. Can I slag Chakotay off?
Yes.
You always seem to. So why would today be an exception?
So, hey, I just want to put it out there. Elliot's the first one to do this episode, not me.
You two taking turns.
Right, so we've had the Federation, the future Federation have met the Diviner and his planet, and it's all gone a bit pear-shaped. And then Chakotay from the past, I can't remember what the difference in time is, but it's quite a huge difference in time. I think it's a couple of 100 years, isn't it?
Yeah, it was quite big, yeah.
So he's gone through this wormhole, and by chance he's come out of the Diviner's planet, because these sort of really low probability things always happen in Star Trek. So he's gone down, and they've immediately blamed him as Federation and seen the chance. So Chakotay was realised to put the weapon on. He can't board the ship and go back in time because that would cause problems. It destroyed the Federation. So he decides what he can do is just send the ship back in time on its own. Because obviously that'll be really safe for the Federation if it's met by any of them. Why didn't he just set the auto-destruct?
Well, maybe
he's been ruining himself on the Diviner's planet anyway in the future.
I think
why not blow his ship up instead of sending it back to destroy the Federation?
I've got a reason. I think there's probably, like, when you're doing self-destruct, the one thing we've seen is it involves 3 officers. You've got to do the whole code and everything. Maybe there was a simple instruction he could send where it's like, just go that, go forward that direction, that many, that distance. It's probably an easier command to send. And plus he didn't have time to go. It's like, wait a minute, let me just think through my different options. It was like, fuck it, just get it out of here so they can't.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't have time to do a vision quest to tell him what to do.
Exactly.
If the ship goes back in time and meets the Federation, it's going to destroy the Federation. So he could go back with it crewed and avoid it meeting the Federation. And
How could he send it back
somewhere
through?
in the Delta Quadrant or Alpha Quadrant or something.
How would he get everyone back up?
Or it could just send it back with no crew that it could randomly be bumped into by the Federation and destroy them all. So what did he do?
I'm not one to defend Chakotay, but I do think they had a line about that they couldn't board the ship or something.
Yeah, because they couldn't go back to... Because it destroyed the Federation.
No. I thought it was that he wouldn't have been able to board it because he was surrounded by these people.
There was something about that, but I agree with you that it is not the best plan. Like, right, send it back through where if it just appears in space, the Federation will probably go, oh, there's our ship. We better salvage it. Oh, dear.
Yeah. No. Okay, right. Two things, right? First of all, it would be a Hail Mary pass to just like, this is the one command I can send. It's the quickest command. I just need to get it out of there so at least they don't return with it. So that's mitigating some of the damage. And also maybe he's hoping because there's no one on board it, as opposed to people hailing it, they couldn't get a response from it because it's just a ship there without anyone on it. So maybe he was hoping that a shuttlecraft would go over, they would look around it
and be destroyed first.
No, but they would go on board as in, and then they find because they wouldn't be able to get any response from the ship because it's just dead in space.
It sounds a bit elaborate to me. I think you're a Chakotay denier.
No. Look, I spoke to this Jewish gentleman who was the consultant on Voyager about the Native American experience.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, it was one of my favorite bits. Sorry, I'm digressing now, but one of my favorite bits of our live panel was when this brilliant, lovely young lady was in the audience, and we talk about this consultant and how he was just like not Native American and everything. She just put her hand up just so meekly and he was Jewish. It's like she was apologizing on behalf of the whole, Jewish religion, and I was like, "It's all right. It's not your fault, you know." He was operating alone. We understand. We don't think this was a conspiracy.
No,
we're not Kanye.
It was a one-man conspiracy on behalf of Jackie, whatever his name was.
I just thought she was ready. It was just
it was the apology in the voice on behalf of my people. I'm very sorry that
none of us are blaming you. Again, apart from Kanye West, he thinks it's all your fault. But apart from that, no one else.
He's just disgusting.
Yeah, well, he's mentally ill. He needs to be on medication, and he refused them. So,
yeah,
that is what it is.
So we won't touch Kanye anymore. So he's got a bit of cash behind him. So
sorry, I just thought it was hilarious.
No, it was good. Yes. So Chakotay, questionable decisions, and then this is when we get Jankum's story. So we go back to the crew. And I think Jankum's is really, really interesting. So first of all, they're in cryosleep, so that's how they're in the Delta Quadrant. Thank you.
This is really strange, isn't it? It's like, it says from Telluride Prime, before they joined the Federation, used to send out the orphans for deep space missions. So where were they sending them? In the Delta Quadrant? And you've got to assume that before they joined the Federation. So we're talking, they've been in cryosleep for a couple of 100 years.
Oh, yeah, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I was imagining maybe, like, I had to fill in a few blanks in this one because I was like, well, there must be one. He talks about chief engineer, so I'm wondering if there was a skeleton crew of adults to then
maybe
lead them as the new, new people to discover these areas and stuff. But yeah, when he got woke up, it's just so good. I love the fact that because the one thing which I thought all through the series was like, okay, it's cute, he says his name and everything, but it's a bit silly and everything. And the fact they justified in this episode made me so happy because I love it when he says his name, but I want there to be a reason. And
I mean, that goes back to like what I was saying earlier about how they have put these little things in that inform what we know. And absolutely brilliant.
Characteristics.
Yeah, that he's got to keep saying it to this AI. It's brilliant.
And just like, and the fact that it is hundreds of years before the Federation justifies why the computer was so shit. It's just a really early crap computer.
And that's it. And it also gives us really sort of the first glimpse we've had into Tellurite culture. Like we know next to nothing about the Tellurites.
Because I like to imagine that the computer, when it left Telluride Prime, when it left the Tellurite planet, I imagined it was kind of top of the line, really intelligent, but after years in deep space, its kind of memory circuits and everything have eroded a bit. And
I found it really strange, the voice of the computer, that it was like a human voice talking to Tellarites. It didn't have the way that they talk, because it's pre-Federations, so it should just be designed on Tellarite.
True. Maybe it's a bit of that magic universal translator that does the work for the viewers.
Oh, right. I've got a pitch for that, where Stephen Hawking used a computerized voice. That didn't sound like human. Maybe their voice just came out human when they tried to.
Yeah, and then when they met the humans, part of the reason the Federation has got formed is because they were like, "Oh, you guys sound like our computers. This is great."
Yeah, you must be smart cookies. You sound like computers, all of you. That'd be great.
Yeah, that works. We'll go with that. And it gives Jankum, who has been largely a comedy character, this really sort of brave and noble backstory that it's like, well, there isn't enough air now because of what you've used, or enough energy, rather. So he makes this sacrifice for the rest of the crew.
There isn't enough air for all 30 passengers to make it to our destination.
Of course, this has to be at the end of the episode, because that's how it ends, when he... when they say that, it sounds noble to me, and then they talk about little squidgy guys they joke about that. But no, sorry, it just reminded me it was at the end of the episode. But I just really liked. He is one of my favorite characters. The guy who voiced him, Jason Mantzoukas, is really hilarious. He's on this podcast called How This Get Made. I think I've said that before, but please do check it out, guys. Anyone listening, it's a really fun show about movies which are just crap and what the hell's wrong with them. And he is just so funny, like the vocalization. But it makes you, because you love him for being the funny guy, when he is in peril, you really feel for him. And he's just got to keep on fixing these things, and it shows him how he learned as an engineer as well, which says his backstory in every way. It's so tightly done. And again, you're just spending so little time on each story.
Yeah, it finishes with sort of that great gag where he's like, "And please tell them about me and speak my name," and then the computer's forgotten who he is.
Yeah,
it's just great.
Are you kidding me? Oh, forget it!
It's just a great little story.
Can we before we get to the end? Sorry, I just want to talk about the interlinking bits for this episode as well, because they were really good with the. Of course, and I think you guys forgot his name last week. Shame on both of you. But the first officer for Janeway, which of course is played by Daveed Diggs, which I would never forget the name of, obviously, who was in Hamilton.
Of course
not. No. He was. He asks Janeway what the music is he's playing, and she goes, "It's I forget which the composer is."
Chopin.
I was going so well then. Chopin's interlude. Yeah, and it's the fact that it's an interlude, and that's all about kind of like little things in between.
Very clever. I like it.
Oh, sorry, I thought, that was the name of the episode and everything. It's great.
I do like how Janeway has deduced now that these aren't criminals, that it's the kids, and they've got themselves in trouble.
Yes, I'm glad we've got there. I feel like one more episode of Janeway not being on the right track, it might have outstayed its welcome, but I feel like we've played that card at exactly the right time.
I don't know. I mean, part of me did think, like, if you'd kept that back, there was a version where literally they end up facing down with Janeway, and then they've got to, in the heat of battle, somehow communicate without using communication that they're the good guys. That's like, that would have been a real... Like, you could have had a real powerful standoff with that. And I feel like they burned through plot in a lovely way, because they've got another plan that we don't see coming.
I think we're heading towards one of my predictions with how this episode ends.
Yep.
With how the Diviner knocks out Janeway when she discovers Dreadnoks and Vindicator.
Okay.
And Diviner comes up behind her and knocks her out, and he goes, "I'm protecting."
Yeah,
and I predicted that he'll end up stealing the Dauntless class.
You did.
Oh, yeah.
He'll do well. Only two of them and one of them robots to do the whole ship will take a bit of doing, but
Dreadnought is pretty nifty though.
I mean, I think
it's not like a Star Wars droid. He's actually quite efficient.
True.
I think we've come up with 4 or 5 different options of which way this could go over the episodes, and I love the fact that again they just seem to burn through the obvious, and they've always got another card up their sleeve of something to do with the show. It's so cleverly done. I think this is one of the, none of the other Star Trek shows I can think of set stuff up where you think you know where it's going, and then it just diverts so many times.
Yeah, true. I mean, however it winds up, it's going to be really interesting. So I'm looking forward to finding out where it goes.
I've got a feeling that we're headed into a fall story end of season arc.
Ooh.
And I think that's a bit of a play on the title of it with Prelude.
Good point.
Prelude, I think, was definitely. I mean, it could have had.
I
many
think it's
meanings,
a bit of a play on. This is the Prelude before we really get into a major, 4 episodes, huge story. And it also played into the title of the music that Janeway was listening to.
The title is definitely a clue to where this episode.
Yeah, this is the calm before the storm.
Yeah. And it's kind of episode which could have been so throwaway to any other show, but I really enjoyed the hell out of this. It was really a fun episode. It was really great.
It's a really good good episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's in contention for best of the series, and there's lots of contenders for that.
It's very clever. It didn't drive the plot forward massively, but it filled in plot holes over the place.
Funny enough, the one we're going to talk about in a second from Deep Space Nine, I feel like this one episode where it's like, it's fine, but it's never going to be anyone's favorite. Whereas, like, if someone said this was their favorite Prodigy so far, I'd say, yeah, fair play. Yeah. Good.
Well, with that, then, let's move on then finally to the Dominion War and Return to Grace. And as we said earlier on, it's more Dominion War adjacent because this episode is an important step on moving all the chess pieces around and getting Gul Dukat where we want him for the next movement of the Dominion War arc.
Yeah. And is this the first one with Damar in it?
Yes, it is. And that's worth shouting out that Damar is basically a glorified extra in this episode. He has a couple of lines, but they're all like techie lines and everything.
He went the O'Brien route of becoming a major player.
Yeah, but by the end of the show, he's a...
It could have very easily just been another Kardashian that we saw for one episode.
I mean, the battle cry in the last episode is for Damar.
Yeah, absolutely. He becomes a major character. And I do know from like reading behind the scenes stuff and whatnot on DS9 that this was another of those cases where they just really liked the actor and they were like, right, well, we're going to beef up that role and we're going to make it much more interesting as we go along. And Damar has an incredible story arc to come.
It probably has one of the strongest story arcs in the whole series when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to also throw in a lovely guy in person, Casey Briggs. He was at the Sci-Fi Ball here in Southampton and did a few musical numbers on the stage with, who was he with? It was him and one of the other guys. I was the Admiral Forrest from Enterprise, who was also...
Right.
I'm going to forget his name. But they do a little... one of them was on the ukulele and they had the song called Trekkie Decky. It's just lovely. Yeah, we're on the Trekkie Decky bit, drink some Doseki with a bottle of beer, something like that.
I was just going to say we need to find a copy of that, but you've got it memorized, so that's fine.
Yeah, I think that was just like it was in the room. Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah. So the setup of this episode then, Kira going to a conference. Dukat, who is now the captain of a little cargo ship, has to take her. And it leads to one of these that we got a lot in TNG, DS9, Voyager, where they'd have the opening teaser and it'd just end in the least inspiring place that's going to make you want to come back after the adverts, because this teaser ends with Dukat saying, okay, get your bags, let's go to the ship.
I did like before that where he goes to Kira, I just moved cargo around now. And he's obviously transporting her, and he has to change it.
Yeah, and there's obviously
dignitaries.
Yeah, we're transporting dignitaries. This is how seriously the Kardashians see you as a Bazoran, as a dignitary. Cargo ship with the guy who's basically Space Hitler. There you go.
The whole dynamic with Kira and Dukat is just brilliant. Not just in this episode, but the fact that he's just constantly negging her and chipping away at her the whole way through. Like you said, that little dig that he has at the start, and all the stuff about Shakar that he drops in over the course of the episode. And he makes these very overt sexual overtures to her constantly.
Yeah.
But I always wonder with Dukat, I mean, I do think he's attracted to her because, you know, he's got eyes. Nana Vista's a very attractive woman.
I honestly think in Dukat's eyes, if he could get on with Kira, that would be like the top brownie points in his book.
That's what I was going to say. It's a power thing with him, isn't it? I want to see if I can seduce someone who hates me.
Yeah, and I think there's also the fact that it's like, as I say, I compare him to Space Hitler, but it's like Hitler asking the Jews to, then fancy him after he's done all that.
Yeah.
That's what he's basically doing. The only thing I kind of would say, and I think they both act at a blinder, but I think, if anything, the lines from Kira should have been even more disgusted at him. Like, I almost feel like it could be done up a bit more. Like, she sometimes gives them a little wry smile, and the writers actually wanted to have a romance with them.
Yeah, they did.
None of us to stop them doing, but
I do think
it's like you do hear stories like from the prisoner of war camps in the Second World War where the Germans who were killing all the Jews would have the lovers from the Jews as well.
Yeah, but they just have sex with them and then leave them in the camps.
That's the thing.
When they were free, that's the difference. Like, she is a free woman. And I mean, I actually have to I really respect Nana Vista for fighting that and for also being one of the women in Trek at that time who wasn't used just as, like, in some ways a sexual object. She was like, no, I'm a badass commander, like you, or a colonel. People respect me. I'm not, like, that's not the character. And she also fought against this. But I think if they weren't trying to do that romantic angle, like, it's okay to have Dukat doing exactly what he's doing, but she should never have any quarter for it. And I think that's what she was fighting for.
I think that's part of Kira's arc. And I think it is deliberate, and it's what writers are doing with Dukat at this point, is they are trying to get the audience to root for him. Yeah. This is from the first time we meet him up until his massive betrayal in season 5. We're gradually repositioning Dukat as, well, he's quite charming, he's quite funny, he's doing the right thing, he's got good morals.
Yeah,
he appears to have now, but
he was a baddie because he was doing it for Kardashian, who is a Kardashian officer. But we're now seeing the true Dukat, and he's coming out, and
that's it. And the title of the episode, "Return to Grace," is, the implication is this is Ducat's redemption.
Yeah.
But then when you pick apart that title, you're like, well, Dukat was never in a state of grace to begin with. So this is not a return.
No.
This is a false facade of it.
I mean, I definitely understand what you're doing.
It's return to grace in his eyes, isn't it?
In his eyes, yes.
I definitely see there was a side to it where they want to show him being nicer to then have the ultimate payoff of him being... Yeah, it's like, we already told you who he was. What, you really fell for him being a good guy? It's just like setting up the audience. I do understand that.
I think that is exaggerated by having Kira as the one who would be most likely to see through it, getting a little bit taken in by it as well. And that culminates in the occupation of DS9 arc at the start of season 6, where there's an episode in that where she just says, what the hell am I doing? I've let my guard down. I've let myself socialize with these people.
I did get it. And there is a side to like, there's loads of interviews who've said it's like, I try and never have a beer with any of these people because if I do, I'll find them charming and they'll be lovely people. You know, I'll know something human about them, and I won't be able to like confront them as much in an interview. I get that, but it's like maybe it would have been interesting so like Lita is supposed to marry Rom if she had fallen for Descartes, and then Kira's the one trying to bring her back. But I don't know. It's just
I think it is for Descartes. It's the whole thing is again. It's I want to prove that I can win her over, and that will show how amazing I am. Yeah. And like all this, like the stuff he drops that thing about Shakar. He's like, oh well, we had files on him, and he was shagging everybody, and it's just the constant chipping away at Shakar.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, mate.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's like, I mean, I think the one thing I did love is he was kind of like subtly being charming, and then he'd do a line, and it was always when he did the line that Kira balked, and it's like, oh fuck, I see what you do, because like he said, it's like just gives me more reason to want to get my status back as a powerful man. And it was like whenever he went that far, that's when she shut him down.
And like there's a bit where they're having dinner and they're talking about Zial, and he's talking about how he doesn't regret what he did, and he loves Zial and all that. And you can see Kira's like, oh, I'm so glad that he loves his daughter. And then he just goes, I'm so glad you convinced me not to kill her. And it's just like...
Yeah, that's a fucked up line. I kind of love it.
Yeah, it's sort of like, this is also who he is, that he was ready to kill his daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like...
it just reminds you, the audience, no, this guy is an absolute dick.
But that's the kind of line I mean. I wish kind of like that line could push back more, because she kind of went with it almost. She was like, are you glad you still didn't kill your daughter? Yeah, I am actually. It's like she was a bit too conversational there maybe, but like again, they've written it so wonderfully. I'm very much the many years later armchair kind of directing it, which
absolutely. I mean, this is the thing with any ongoing TV show where there has been a plot line that was intended but dropped, you're always going to pick up on bits of it here and there, and you kind of have to do a little bit of mental gymnastics to fit it in with where we now know the story goes. But
also, like 26 episodes of series, or however many it was in Deep Space Nine at the time, it's like Jesus Christ, that's a lot of
episodes.
Yeah, that's in 1 year writing that many episodes.
That's crazy.
Jesus Christ.
I mean,
like the fact that it's as amazing as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the main plot is fairly straightforward. Klingons are attacking things. Descartes decides to go after them. And there is this beautiful thing that Kira's helping them by using Bajoran resistance tactics. And that obviously will come in way more in the final season.
Yeah.
But it's good to see it here, and the fact that Descartes is, if you put aside the whole attraction that he has to her and his seedy motivations for that, he is impressed with her as a warrior, as a tactical brain. She's like, well, hang on, you can put that gun on here. Oh, but it's not made to do it. Well, don't matter. You've got to use it.
Yeah. It'll fit in the cargo bay. But what do we do with cargo? Ditch it.
Yeah.
And she said, and I know that as if Picard asks you for a captain, you get a percentage of the cargo.
And that's it.
You're going to have to let that go if you want to do this.
That's the thing with Descartes. It's like, do you want to be a freedom fighter or do you want your money? Because you can't have both.
The only thing I was wondering, though, is like, and I know that Kira could have advised him on this as well, but I was like, so where do they get their money from to keep the freedom fighting? Because, like, on Voyager, it was them working together, kind of like, I mean, sorry to bring real world politics into it, but like with the Ukraine, they've at least got all their forces together. They've got kind of people supplying them with food. There is some help from the West, blah, 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 blah. He is one ship on his own. How does he then fund it? That's the only question they didn't answer.
I think the implication is that they keep attacking Klingons, so I imagine that they're nicking stuff from...
They've got replicators.
No, that's a really great point. Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I'm guessing the replicators
As
only
long
have
as
so
it's
much
got
power, but they
an
keep making
ample
stuff.
power supply, it's no problem.
No, you're right.
Replicators.
Thank you. You've answered my question.
And are the Klingon ships like the equivalent of the Klingon bird of prey is like the equivalent of the Ford Fiesta? It's like the most nicked ship in the galaxy because Kirk nicked one, Ducat's nicked one.
And that's only two examples in the fairness.
Like, it's funny as the bird of prey because it's depending on which episode of Star Trek and what you're watching, TNG, DS9, even Voyager, the sizes of the bird of prey varied massively.
Yeah, they did.
It was really lovely with Rick Sternbach when he talked about how when they were designing that, they really did look at the original and they wanted to get the feeling and, just this bird of prey. So they wanted to do the wings. Oh, it's lovely. They, really thought out the design. Sorry, it's a slightly different to the point.
I mean, that's the thing in it because it is such a great design. And I think that's how they explained it in like the technical manuals and things. They said, well, the one you see in Star Trek 3 that's got a 12-man crew is just a little one, but the design itself is flawless. So what they did was just made a bigger version that's half the size of the Enterprise D.
Yeah.
Oh, and interesting, like little side note. You guys probably know this, but the explosion in Star Trek 6 of the bird of prey, they nicked the explosion scene for Generation.
They didn't
It's the exact same.
They didn't even reverse it.
No,
it's just exactly
they mirrored one of them.
They might have done it for an episode of something somewhere, but Generations, they didn't even bother.
I thought it was mirrored.
No, because I remember when we did our episode on it.
Like I can picture in my head, it goes to one side, then goes upwards in the explosion.
Yeah,
and it's the exact same movement.
It's the same. I think they slightly color corrected it a little bit to make it look out, but yeah,
that's possible. But frame for frame, it looks exactly the same.
It does. It is the same, and it's very cheap and nasty. And I think
Elliot, on the budget of a movie when they're using clips from the episodes. That's not what used to happen in TV movies.
I think if you dig out one of our early episodes where we talk about Generations, I think, Elliot, you had a bit of a rant about that at the time.
I might have done. I may have another rant about it in March.
Why March?
In March?
Just as a little teaser for March. Anyone going to the weekend?
Oh, sorry, the weekend. Pardon me.
Yeah, we're doing When Trek Goes Wrong at the Movies.
Oh yeah, I didn't know we'd settled on that. I'm in. Yeah, great.
I thought we'd settled on that.
I thought we'd settled on it. I think the world needs a sequel. We can get away with talking about bad Star Trek one more time on stage, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so the end of the trilogy.
Well, then we've got a full year to think of something original.
We'll probably have to get new material at some point. But
that's it. You've just given away with new material. You do. Star Trek goes wrong. Star Trek goes wrong in the movies. When New Trek goes wrong.
There we go. That's it. We'll just talk about second half of season 4 of Discovery.
Or season 5. Oh no, which one's
season 4 is the one we've just had.
Oh, the whole thing then. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. And we've managed to talk about Zial all this time and not point out that it's a different actress. But it won't be the last time it's a different actress. So
let's play ranking these Zials. I think this one was average. I like the one on the station for most of the time.
Yeah, I think
it's really odd this with DS9 with what they do with Zial, because they're so consistent that they get a character and then decide to do more with them and they bring the actor or actress back. And Zial just went every time, new actress.
It might be availability, maybe just those two particular actors because they were in one standalone episode. Maybe they had their big break. Or what they thought was going to be their big break. It doesn't always turn out to be.
By the time we get to season 6, we do have the same Zial for more than one episode.
Yeah.
So that's good. But I do think apparently, I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been Ronald D. Moore, who actually wanted to keep recasting her every single time just as a joke. They vetoed it ultimately.
Because I'm guessing these standalone episodes, I'm guessing it's prior commitments. Otherwise, they would.
Yeah, it'll be availability, won't it? And it's one of them, like, they didn't know how big a character Zial would ultimately become, so you've not got the actors locked into contracts or anything. Yeah. One last thing then about Ducat. Towards the end of the episode, he comes across as genuinely committed to the cause, I think. And usually Ducat, there's always an edge somewhere, and he's always playing the long game. But I do get the impression at the end of this episode that, no, he is actually committed to what he wants to do here.
I think he's very genuine in this episode of what he wants to do. And I think circumstances put him in a different position and he saw an opportunity to change later.
I think you're probably right.
There's a moment in the middle of the episode where Kira's challenging. It's that bit in the shot in the bay where they're saying about, we'd have to flush out all the cargo to get this weapon in, and you see the kind of cogs whirring in Ducat's mind, because he's like, he does want to do something, he does want to make a difference, he does want to blow up this ship, but he hasn't thought past that to like being in guerrilla warfare, which Kira is an expert on. He's not. I think it's something clicks to him. It's like, no, I really have to let go of Cardassia, like with the current government. I have to let go of so much shit to do this. And it's like him letting go of his, he's putting his people before the people's government. That is a huge step for him. I think that
is huge for him. Do you think in the back of his mind, is he thinking, I'm going to become a big folk hero here and this will be my inroad?
He thinks he's ought to be a hero of Cardassia by what he's doing. Because he knows that what the government are doing, the government have got, where they're trying to negotiate peace with the Klingons, isn't going to work.
Yeah. Obviously. It's already a done deal in his mind.
It's also against how the Cardassians actually are as a people, not generally.
Yeah.
So he thinks he's doing the right thing as being a guerrilla. He thinks he's ought to be a hero. He thinks he's ought to rise up very high in Cardassia. Possibly higher than he's been previously. Politically, because it's not just military, he's also politically motivated.
He thinks he's not, he doesn't even think in terms of guerrilla warfare. He thinks like, right, I've taken this one rogue action, but when they see what I've done, I will be the conquering hero, welcomed home. I will be back in my position. He's already saying exactly. That's what I mean. He's already saying that it's like, right, the first act I'm going to do is demote that fucker who pissed me off and do this, that, and
he's already like it straight away.
But then I think by the end of the episode, he's accepting that I might not get there, but I'm going to do this for the greater good kind of thing. And I find that really interesting.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a comparison.
100% genuine.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Obviously, at some point, which we're going to come to, we don't know when, he obviously meets Changeling's founders. And he does a deal with them for Cardassia.
Well, I mean, this is what I mean, though.
At this point, he's genuine. He's going to be a guerrilla warfare fighting the Klingons.
Yeah, I'm just talking about in that earlier moment, though. It's like, it kind of, again, I'm sorry to bring real world politics, only because I don't want to be disrespectful to the Ukraine war, but it feels like it works so well as an allegory that he's thinking that, like the Russian people, it seems to be a lot of things about loyalty and about kind of like power and all this. And that's a great allegory for the Cardassians. They're all about that. So I think the idea of being disloyal to any government of Cardassia is so alien to him. It takes so much for him to get to that point of them being so disrespectful of this huge victory. He's handed them on a plate and they're going, yeah, we're not going to do anything with that. It takes that for him to turn against his people and know that he's putting his people before his government. And like those two things, though, to him were inseparable before. Every time Garrett talks about it, it's always about how it's for Cardassia. And like, even though he's no longer with them, he's still talking about them in these wistful terms. And he is traitor to them. And he's still talking about them with that reverence. And that's how hard it is to break that kind of sync of state and of government and people.
Yeah. So we'll put a pin in Ducat there for now, because this may not be where he ends up on his overall arc.
And of course, Kira, we do have to pay
doing
mention.
spoilers, even though people may have seen DS.
They may have seen it, but just all I'm saying is keep an eye on that Gul Ducat.
Well, it's another great example, though, of where they did stay true to Kira's character, where she gets this offer and she's like, no, I've done that. And these aren't my people. This is not my fight. Why the hell would I do it? What I can do is save Zial. If you let me, she can go back with me. And I think that's a wonderful ending to the episode. Yeah,
and that's a good, again, it's rearranging the chess pieces a little bit. Let's get Zial onto the station now. We can do something
for that.
We'll get obviously we'll get a new actress. I mean, come on. But yeah, it puts her in a position where she's going to interact with different characters. Gareth, perhaps, for example.
Well, that's a wonderful one. I don't know if we'll cover it if the one where she gets with Garrick is featuring this, but there's such a lovely episode where he's so worried because she asked him
she's going to kill him.
She's bringing a gun with him to a date.
Yeah,
this is so brilliant. But it says everything you want to know about the Kardashians.
Well, that says everything about Garrick that you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah,
well, it's
absolutely.
Both. It's Garrick, he is a product of his world, let's face it, and of the most brutal of his world as well. That he's like, better bring a gun. I mean, okay, she might want to shag me, but I'm not going to trust her.
Yeah, you can't be too careful. So we've got all that stuff to look forward to. We're still so far away from some of that. I was thinking, Dominion War-wise, in terms of the amount of episodes that were produced of DS9, we're in the middle. We're in the middle of season 4, bang in the middle of the whole show's run. However, the Dominion War is heavily weighted to the second half, so we are nowhere near halfway through our coverage of the Dominion War.
I expect us to be covering the Dominion War in 2024, maybe 2025 we might finish.
I was going to say, look forward to what they left behind in 2030. That'd be great.
Yeah, where we'll cover the DS9 finale right after we cover the finale of the Section 31 show, which hasn't even started yet.
Pretty much.
But that'll do us for now then. But if you want to get in touch with us, we're on Twitter at RetrekPod. You can email us retrekpod@gmail.com. You can come and find us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. And we'll be back next time talking about the next episode of Prodigy, as well as the next episode of the Dominion War. Dr. Squee, I believe they can find you on the radio.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've only just discovered this. We should have had that while we're talking about the end of Deep Space Nine. Sorry, spoiler alert for anyone listening on audio. Yes, the Dr. Squee Show, Tuesday, 6 to 8 on sw20radio.co.uk. I ended up taking my birthday week off, which was this week.
Too right.
So the one which I plugged last week for Lee Sullivan, that's going to be this week. He was a wonderful artist. He's worked on Robocop. He's worked on Doctor Who. Most of the franchises you can think of, he's done a comic book. He's done the art for. He's a wonderful artist. Genuinely, he's just. I was so pleased to get all the stories from him. So you can enjoy that on Tuesday.
Fantastic. And thanks for trekking with us this time. We will see you next time on the Retrek.
LLAP.
Bye-bye.
Fascinating.
I just wish the audience could see my dad dancing to the tune. It's so good.